Hey everyone, Bass Pro, Dean Rojas here, and you're probably wondering why I'm standing on the bank here, but this is how I used to fish. Like we all used to fish, is from the bank. If you're fishing a little pond or a river bank, or a stream, it's kind of how we all get started. I remember when I was a little kid running up and down the shoreline, making casts and so forth. So just kind of want to bring you back to what I always liked to do when I was bank fishing. I always like to cover a lot of ground, depending on what I was fishing, and the shrubbery, as you can see, whatever would allow you to fish, and fishing the bank itself. So usually when you're bank fishing, you're kind of limited on what kind of equipment that you can carry, because usually it's a backpack. Back then it was a fanny pack. Those are outdated now, but you can tell I've been doing this for a long time. But I used to carry everything in a big fanny pack. I'd keep all my tackle here, and I'd have sometimes a backpack on, moving down, and just had some specific baits that I would use while fishing small bodies of water. And I still love to do that now today. Even when I see it, I'd pull into somewhere and I see a little lake or a little pond, I can always envision myself walking down there and making casts and then around the bank and so forth. So the cool part about fishing from the bank is you utilize your time a lot more. You break down the area that you are dealt with, say right here, and you're able to fish basically everything. If you're on your trolling motor going down the bank, you're making a cast here, a cast there, and a cast there, and it's about covering the water. When you're bank fishing, you can't have that mobility as you would on a boat. So what I like to do is be able to fish all the water depths that you have. Obviously, the shoreline cover, wherever there's a grass line or a hard edge or rock or whatever, you want to be able to make casts, at the 3 o'clock position. So basically, you're at 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock is your half circle here. So you're going to be fishing different parts, and you're able to make, say, like 8 to 10 casts in this area here. Whereas if you were just going down the bank, you would just make one here, one there, one there. But it really teaches you how to fish certain parts of the water column and where you're at. And it's going to tell you exactly where the fish are at. They could be out in the middle, out here in the middle. And there could be some lily pads or patches of grass out there that you can cast to and work that that type of thing. So that's at the 12 o'clock, and you can work from 12 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock to 9 o'clock, and then 1, 2, and 3 on this side. So it really enables you to cover a lot of the water really thoroughly, and especially on a small body of water where you're just constantly making repetitive casts, trying to get them to bite. And that's the cool part about fishing. It's a very simple way of doing it. Anybody can go fishing and be close to the water and feel the coolness of the water coming up as the wind blows. You're walking around in the shrubbery. You get to see the landscape. You get to see what's in the water clarity, and how the fish are reacting to the bait. And you can use multiple baits for that. Obviously, topwater is a fun way to fish, and it's something that I truly love to do, especially frog fishing. But you can fish every foot if you wanted to, and just do a parabolic all the way across the whole spectrum here, and covering shallow water, deep water, all different water columns. And you could throw a worm, you could throw a crankbait, a buzzbait, a frog, any type of stick bait, weightless. There's so many, it's infinite on what you can do when you're forced to fishing, small patches of area that's all you can fish. So you end up utilizing a lot of different techniques to try and get bit and catch as many bass as you possibly can. So it's how I got started. It's how I think we all got started, from me being a little boy, just going down the bank, trying to catch a bluegill, or a bass for that matter. And it brings back the simplicity of what fishing is. And there's a lot of super high-tech stuff that we use on our bass boats, but actually shore fishing brings you back to being around nature and being in it and around it all the time, to where you pay attention to every little detail that's happening in and around where you're fishing. So those are things that kind of brings you back to where where your first love of catching a fish was probably from the bank. and it's easy, accessible on all that. So I still enjoy doing it. It's a lot of fun for me to do that, for the simplicity purpose of it all. And it's something that people who are just novice fishermen love to just go out and bank fish, and even if you're just fishing with a bobber, with a red worm or something, catching bluegill, it's just still fun to watch the bobber go down. So cool things, fishing from the bank. It's still a fun way to fish and an exciting way to fish. So it's something that I love to do and continue to enjoy doing. Us here, and you're wondering probably why I'm standing here on the bank with a frog in hand. Well, it's almost. You can use it on your blooper reel.